Well, good morning. Got a renovation right here, and I smoked this off. I started back in mid-July. A little bit of common Bermuda, mainly crabgrass. Crabgrass I'm not concerned about. We can manage that with pre-emergent, but the common Bermuda, it's something different. And chances are it'll be back at some point in the future. Did 3 applications. 2 of them were extremely hot mixes, about 4 different products going after Bermuda, including Roundup. And then the last one was just Roundup and Pylex only. And you'll still find that Bermuda will want to creep back in. Who knows, it may stay gone for a year, may stay gone for 5 years. I've done renovations. I've done this one renovation that actually the Bermuda stayed away for 7 years. And this year, 2024, it's just now starting to creep back in. So, it is what it is. Some things you just can't get rid of. Got my Ventrac set up here, 4520N. That's the fuel injected Kubota. Hands down my favorite model. Just the power's crazy. Got my gosh, I can't remember what you call this thing. Primary seeder. It's cultipacker. Basically, you can see it's got a roll of cultipacker disc in the front and one in the back, and you have the option to drop the seed. This yard's so small, I'm just going to use a drop seeder around the edges and then spread it with my turf ware, and then just use that to kind of press the seed in and get good seed soil contact. Soil cultivator right here. Hands down one of my favorite Ventrac attachments. It's a rototiller that tills in reverse, and then this basket right here kind of firms the ground back up, so it rolls everything over real good. It's got a little bit of a leveling bar right here. It helps level a little bit. GCI turf tall Fescue. That's my GCI turf 613 that I get custom blended. Of course, my Ventrac power rake. I brought that just in case I need to do some grading. Not completely sure if I'm going to need that or not, but I wanted to have it just in case. Turf wear, I've got tenacity in the tank, and RGS, so I can spread my grass seed, and then when the job's complete, I'll blanket everything with tenacity and RGS. And in my bucket here, my little bucket, there's some dirt in the back, and if we come right over here, you can see I've got a few areas. You can't really see it on camera, but this is a low spot in the ditch. And then where the road right here kind of drops off real sharply, I'm going to put some dirt in here and kind of level that up. And I've got to kind of reshape this ditch just a little bit. So chances are I'm going to need a power rake. So this guy had irrigation put in, and I don't know if I would accept this irrigation system or not. Of course, I ain't seen it run, but just looking at where the heads are at, don't look like the coverage is going to be all that great, but who knows? It might. Have to turn it on and see. They got one head right here, and this one head has to cover that entire area. And if this head reaches that corner, that means it's going to water out in the road. If that one head reaches that corner over there, that means the water is going to throw out into the road. Probably about right here. All this will get painted with water. I digress. Let's get to work. It's that time of the year, fall of the year, cool season turf. if you're going to consider, starting from scratch or something like that, fall of the year is definitely the ideal time. It is exact opposite of warm season turf like Bermuda, Zoysia, stuff like that, where you would plant that seed in the springtime, being totally and completely sure you're past the last frost. You don't want to plant warm season grass seed in mid-April and then get one of those sneaky frosts, toward the end of April, and that wouldn't be good. While I'm on the subject, sod, laying dormant sod, in the wintertime, I've seen it done 1,000,000 times, and seems to work pretty dang good, so no problem there. But we're talking about specifically grass seed. This is a gentleman I go to church with. He is a believer as myself, and we both worship and serve the same King of Kings and Lord of Lords. We got a lot of things in common. Just really cool dude. Main thing in common is he loves Jesus, and that's an A+ in my book, baby. So he hollered at me, I think back in the springtime, and said, "Hey, I want to redo my front yard. Backyard is a wreck, and hopefully maybe one day we'll work on the backyard." Front yard is about 8,000 square feet, and I started the process back in mid-July when I went to spray a pretty heavy mix of Roundup. Let's see, what was in it? Roundup, Triclopyr, Pylex, and something else. I may have Fusilade. I think it's Fusilade in there. So a very hot mix, and the only reason I made it that hot was because there was some common Bermuda. One little patch about bigger than the hood of my truck, but that's all it takes for that stuff to spread. Then come in and broke ground with a soil cultivator. That thing is an absolute beast. Is hands down one of my favorite attachments for the Ventrac. I use it on ball field work, and I use it on renovation jobs like this one I'm on. And also, some people don't think about this, but a tiller or the Ventrac soil cultivator is a great way if you have like a trouble area that seems to dry out a lot, or it's a hard pan spot and nothing will grow. I've done this 100 times. Go buy some compost or some really good topsoil and put an inch or so down on the area, and then take that rototiller or Ventrac soil cultivator in this instance and rototill that material into the native soil. And it's worked pretty good for me over the years. Might work for you, might not, I don't know. Went over the whole yard with that, and that's got a little bit of leveling capability to it, which is one of the things I really like about it. And once I did that, got my power rake out. I wasn't gonna power rake it. I was just gonna soil cultivate it and be done with it. But there were some low spots in the yard I wanted to correct, so I used the power rake to get all that done, slick it down, and then that just was kind of my final grade, and that allowed me to keep about 1.5 inches roughly of real loose soil on the top for the seed bed. And I've gotten pretty good with that power rake to where I can just barely feather the ground with it and run it at a high RPM spin where the drum is turning really, really fast, and it picks all of the debris out of the yard, like little rocks, little sticks, dead grass from the kill off, any of that kind of thing, and I'll windrow it. So in the footage right here, you'll see a little strip of material left beside my power rake, and that's what I'm doing. I'm windrowing the junk all over to the woods, and that way I'm left with nothing but dirt. After that part's done, then you want to put your grass seed down. I went down with a GCI turf type tall fescue. It's the exact same fescue we got on the website for sale. A link in the description below. You can check that out if you want to. And use my turfware and a drop spreader. Now here's the deal. When you're doing a bare dirt renovation, I personally am a stickler for a drop spreader. And what that drop spreader does is it drops that grass seed down and leaves you a dead clean line. Dead straight clean line, depending on how you push the spreader. And that is essentially what is going to create the edges in your landscape from the get-go, right? So if you use a rotary, a broadcast spreader around the edges, and even if you go really, really tight and really, really slow, it's just not going to do the same as using a drop spreader and dropping the seed directly straight down on the ground. I think the hopper or the gate opening is maybe 2 inches off the ground. So the seed's not going to move that much dropping 2 inches. So that's how you're able to keep that really nice, clean, defined line with your seed. Then, of course, I get on my turfware and spread the rest of the seed broadcast with an impeller, and I throw over to the outer edge of that drop seeder spread line. I went down 10 pounds per thousand, so that's 8,000 square feet, so that's 80 pounds of grass seed. And I set my hopper at half of that. Like, I'm going to spread it at 4 pounds per thousand because I'm going to go over the yard twice. Okay, so I go over it one way and then checkerboard it and go over it the opposite direction. I feel like that gives me really good coverage. And once I do that, it was late in the day when I got that done, so I went back to the shop and had to work on my Hydroseeder. You know, my Hydroseeder is designed to go in the bed of a truck. Well, I was getting kind of tired and nauseous, to be honest with you, having to unload my truck, load that thing on there, go to a job, hydroseed, come back to the shop, unload it. It's just getting on my nerves. So I bought a trailer. And by buying a trailer, now I have to just back the truck up to it, hook and go. And when I get back to the shop, I unhook and I'm done. And I also put a Hannay hose reel on it. This is a very large hose reel. I think they sell these things like fire departments, and they put them on fire trucks and things like that. It holds 200 foot of 1.25 inch hose, which is a lot of hose. Man, that thing is heavy. The reel is electric rewind, and last night at the shop when I wired it up, it worked flawlessly. And today it didn't work flawlessly. I think the solenoid is bad. I gotta do some digging on that and see what's wrong with it and get that working, because I had to manually roll in about 180 feet of that 1.25 inch hose. Fortunately, my buddy was there to help me, the homeowner. He helped me get it in, so it didn't take all that long. But in prime conditions, you would want to hit the button on the hose reel and it just automatically pull in all the line, all the hose for you. And that's the easy way of doing it. Like you saw earlier in the video, the homeowner got irrigation. We will see how good the coverage is over time. Next summer, that will really tell us how good the coverage is. But for now, we'll go with what he's got. And my instructions to the homeowner as far as watering goes was to let the oh, and by the way, hydroseeding is like a paper material, and you add it with water, it becomes a thick slurry, and then you spray that out over the renovated area, and it holds moisture in and keeps the seed kind of in place and minimizes washing. That's what hydroseeding is. I do not put my grass seed in the hydroseeder because I seed Bermuda, I seed zoysia sometimes, I seed fescue, and I seed cool blue, all using that hydroseeder. So I don't like cross-contamination. No matter how good you clean it, there's always a chance of that one grass seed being in there. And I don't want to dare go to a client's yard and plant fescue and have that 1 or 2 little Bermuda grass seeds in the tank. So this tank is a virgin tank when it comes to grass seed. I always spread the grass seed. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I actually cultipacked this too. The dirt was kind of fluffy and airy, So I cultipacked it. So I soil cultivator with a tiller, power rake for grading and leveling, seeded it, and then put down the then went down with the soil cultipacker, and that's just the implement that presses the grass seed down in the ground to kind of give you that perfect seed to soil contact. Then I come over top of that, and then I put the hydroseeding on top of that. And like I said, my hydroseeder's never had any grass seed in it whatsoever, just because I just don't want to take the risk of cross-contamination. And so back to watering, the way I give instruction to the homeowner was to, first thing, allow the hydroseeding mulch to dry out. Okay, why would you want to let it dry out? Well, I need him to see a visual color. When you spray the stuff originally, it kind of water, it has a darker blue color to it. When it dries out, it turns a lighter blue color to it. So if he lets it dry out, I told him to set his zone for 10 minutes a zone, let it cycle through 10 minutes, and see if that's enough water to get us back to the dark blue color, to change the color of the mulch again, the hydroseeding mulch. And if it is, that means, all right, you've gotten it moist. Now, set your timer on your watch and pay attention and see how long does it take for it to dry out. Does it take 2 hours for it to dry out? Does it take 4 hours or 6 hours? And whatever that amount of time is for it to dry out, back up about an hour. Or you know, right along that. If, let's say it takes 4 hours for it to dry out, you know, maybe 3.5 hours, or the 4 hour mark, somewhere right around that range, because we are getting cooler and it's going to stay moister longer. That's how often you need to run the irrigation. So let's say it dries out every 4 hours. That means you need to run it 10 minutes a zone every 4 hours. And you can do the exact same thing with dirt, because dirt changes colors when it gets wet. So if you set your sprinkler out there and run it for 20 minutes, and you see the ground change color, and you touch the ground with the hands that God gave you, and the ground is moist to the touch, then let it dry out the first time, but time it. Okay, you want to make sure you do that on a Saturday or a Sunday when you're at home, and time it and see how long it takes for it to dry out. And then you know how often, the frequency you need to run that 10 or 20 minutes a zone, whatever you're running it for. So I did go down with my GCI 613, using that kind of like a starter fertilizer at a ½ pound per N. And I told him, 2 weeks with the weather we're having now, it's 76 degrees according to my truck. About 2 weeks it'll be up and running, and maybe a month from now he'll be mowing it. I did instruct him to push mow the first 4 times until the turf matures and hardens off and things like that. Because all he has is a big zero turn, and you definitely don't want to put a big zero turn on brand new baby grass. It rarely works out in your favor. So there you go. That's the renovation in the books. I'm headed to the shop, going to unhook, unload, and I'm going to rush home and change my clothes right quick, and we're going to go play golf. Check you later.